viewers. Special video out this evening. It's actually it's 1 a.m. Central Time in the U.S. Right now. Um, but this evening we had an issue with St. Thomas Shoals off the Philippines, and a supply mission there that was intercepted by the Chinese Coast Guard and Maritime Militia. So we're going to dive into this for a second. It'll be a short video, but just to brief you guys on what's happening. All right, for those that aren't familiar, this is the Second Thomas Shoals. Second Thomas Shoals is 100 miles off of the island of Palawan, uh, which is well within the economic exclusion zone of the Philippines. Now, the Philippines, back before 2016 and before the arbitration ruling, went ahead and uh, grounded a ship out there on this toll. And wait a second, once I get my mouse back. As you can see, it's an old World War II tank landing ship. And this is St. Thomas Shoals. High tide, the entire thing's underwater. At low tide, you can walk on some of those surfaces. So there's a contingent of 12 Marines aboard this that live aboard the ship. They serve there for 3-month time periods. And what it is it's a legal warfare. With people there, it's considered inhabited. Even though the 2016 ruling from The Hague, from the UN, said that this wasn't an island by itself. This was a way to prevent China from grabbing it and creating a naval base on it. Now, they did that to Mischief Reef, which is approximately 55 miles north of the shoal here. So it's pretty important that the Filipinos keep a contingent there. Now, of course, there's no power on this ship. It's all generator. There's no water. There's no food. No construction materials to try to maintain what's left of the ship. I'm going to do another video with kind of more detail on how this all came to be. But it requires supply runs. There's been 5 supply runs in 2023 out to the ship, and most, if not all of them, have been intercepted by the Chinese Coast Guard and the Maritime Militia. And they've used various tactics of blocking the supply ships from getting out here to the shoal, to actually firing on them with water cannons and lasers to blind the crew. So it's been quite an up and down time. There's talk, and we just had this week, that the U.S. and the Philippine Navy have sailed together for the first time in a very long time. So that might alleviate some of this eventually. However, yesterday, the Filipinos sent a Coast Guard cutter, the Sindangang, and the BRP Cabrera out to the shoals for resupply. They encountered a force of 2 Coast Guard cutters and 10 militia ships. And here's the initial AIS tracking. Over in the far right-hand side, you can see the Philippine Coast Guard ships. The first group that's in between them is all maritime militia, with a Chinese Coast Guard vessel to the south of the group providing support. And then another group of maritime militia closer to the shoal, which you can see there on the left. At this time, the other Chinese Coast Guard cutter had shut off its AIS, so we didn't know precisely where it was. Now, I'm not able to get AIS data from there directly. It requires a satellite subscription, and frankly, that's a lot of money that I just can't afford at this point. we're going to talk about some fundraisers for the channel here in the future. But right now I have to get this second hand, and unfortunately I'm not able to get time hacks on these pictures. So you have to bear with and remember that naval combat and maneuvering all around is pretty slow work. It takes a few hours to do things. So when the Cabera and the Sindengang finally encounter the first group, of course, the Chinese Coast Guard is the Chinese Coast Guard, and it gives you the hull number there, 5305 and 21551. And the other ones are fishing boats from the Maritime Militia. Now, they are paid to be the eyes and ears of the Chinese Coast Guard and the Chinese government, and they don't fish a lot. They provide protection and intelligence to these small islands and atolls that the Chinese claim to be theirs. So what we see here is we see them encountering the Chinese, and the Sindengang takes off to the northeast there, and he is trying. I think what he's trying to do, given the Coast Guard cutter is right on him, is he's trying to draw some of those forces away from the Cabera, and because you can see that the Cabera is still on course for the second Thomas Shoals. You can see they get really close. We don't have scale on this, but I'm betting probably in the next day or two we're going to see a bunch of press releases and pictures come out from this encounter. So a little while later, they realize that the Cabera is still trying to get to the shoal, and the Maritime Militia takes up blocking positions, and a different Coast Guard ship pops up on AIS. Now, one thing about AIS is that it's not always on. So 21616 here was out there the entire time, but never lit up. So at this point, he lit up his AIS so everybody could see him, and he is on a course to cut off the Cabera. And a little while later, we still see the Sindengang up to the north, trying to come in and probably get to the the shoal from the northern side, while everybody's occupied with the Cabera down south. So now we have 3 Coast Guard ships involved in this, and still several maritime militia. And then the last slide, which is this one I do have a little bit of a time hack for. It's 8:45 p.m. local time in the Philippines. And at this point, the Cabera is still on course for the shoal. The Sindengang has come down and done some serious maneuvering, but from the information that I'm getting from my source of this, is both ships, both Philippine ships, departed the area to the east. And it doesn't sound like they've actually made it to St. Thomas Shoal for the resupply this time around. So we're going to have to wait and see. Either tomorrow or the next day. Like I said, we'll start seeing press releases. We'll find out if anything, they actually had an encounter, if they were shot at with water cannons or anything else at that point. And we'll find out, like I said, tomorrow, day after, we'll start seeing some press releases and figure out what happened. But I wanted to kind of show you guys this because, like I said, this is the 5th time that this has happened. So, this is just proof of Chinese aggression and being the bully on the block. So, So anyway, I will go ahead and make make an update to this video once we have more information. Have a good night.